How's it going, everybody? So we have a fun review today as we're talking Clown in a Cornfield. For quite some time now, this has actually been on my radar. A couple of years ago, when the Clown in a Cornfield book debuted, I remember getting a ton of buzz as this really exciting horror YA novel. And not too long afterwards, we had this announcement that they were making a feature-length film. So even though I have still not read the books in this series to this point, I did want to see what the buzz was all about. So who knows, if I ended up really loving this adaptation, I'm definitely going to pick up all the different books. When Quinn and her father move to a quiet town in hopes of a fresh start, soon she discovers a fractured community and a sinister grinning figure that emerges from the cornfields to cleanse the town of its burdens, one bloody victim at a time. Now obviously, because I'm going into this having not read the source material, I can't really compare and contrast stuff from the books, but strictly as somebody that's going into this as a horror movie enthusiast and someone that has very mixed feelings about clowns in general, they do a fairly effective job bringing the fun and mixing in effective carnage throughout this slasher. Interestingly, Clown in a Cornfield kind of does this balancing act, executing the typical familiar tropes you're accustomed to stumbling upon watching almost every slasher, the checking of the boxes, so to speak, the troublemaking teenagers who will inevitably start getting brutally murdered, and a town who grows more and more suspicious when all these people keep going into this cornfield and not coming back. But also at the same time, Clown in the Cornfield also does a good job establishing its own identity, managing to surprisingly pack a level of heart into the story I definitely was not expecting when interwoven into so much bloody mayhem. Speaking of mayhem, anybody that's going into this that has a fear of clowns or just finds them incredibly unsettling, this movie is probably going to be your personal hell. I absolutely would not want to be Friendo's friend. Still, nevertheless, I gotta hand it to them how well crafted many of the kills in the film are. They certainly do not shy away from the gnarly, bloody, gory scenes that horror fans are going to eat up. Already, there usually is this inherent creepiness to clowns, so that feeling only is made worse with the visual of a clown stalking someone through a cornfield. Anytime we get a brand new slasher, there always are those questions, those debates amongst horror communities. Could this person be the next icon of the genre? For a first outing, if they decide to continue making these movies, since even though I haven't read them, I do know there's multiple books, the potential absolutely is there for Friendo to inevitably become a type of slasher icon. The creepiness factor is there, the kills are brutal, along with the fact that conceptually the idea around Friendo is intriguing to me, since in a way it is a play on a sort of demented version of a town mascot. Think along the lines of John Carver in Thanksgiving a couple years ago, except for instead of Thanksgiving, this mascot Friendo is a mascot for corn syrup. While it feels like it's been forever since Tucker and Dale vs. Evil came out, this is the same director as that film, Eli Craig. I really wish he directed more films because I think he does a good job balancing the horror and comedy. I mean, Tucker and Dale vs. Evil is such an incredibly underrated horror comedy in my opinion. Stylistically, Craig seems like a great fit here. While the comedy isn't as over the top as in something like Tucker and Dale vs. Evil, Clown in a Cornfield has some pretty hilarious moments. A handful of them made me feel like a complete dinosaur because a good chunk of the humor is catered more towards the Gen Z crowd. Kids having no idea how to work a rotary dial phone or they can't drive a stick shift. Those ones though were probably the funnier of the two. Cast all around does a pretty good job selling all of this stuff. I kind of like the cast here. The final girl in this especially is fairly solid, but even some of the more like veteran presences to the film, like Will Sasso and Kevin Durand, brought some fun energy. Kevin Durand slowly is becoming one of those actors that keeps popping up in things that I really adore, whether that be stuff in the genre like Abigail or just other genre fare like Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. I will say this though as a type of semi-warning if you're going to be checking out this film, whether it be in theaters, VOD, streaming, etc. Around the first half of the movie or so, you're more than likely still going to have some fun with the concept but not understand the hype considering how familiar everything feels. Roughly about that much time in the movie is spent as a standard clown slasher affair, but eventually there's a moment where you're going to feel a shift within the story that I feel like subverts your expectations on what to expect from Clown in the Cornfield, and it gets so much better from there. Once that shift happens though, I was even more locked in than I already was. The only other thing in the movie that I guess you could say is kind of a negative is once we figure out some of the motivations behind what truly is going on here and what the killer's motivations are, it's one of those situations where if you try and piece everything together and rationalize it, it does kind of fall apart in the end. All around though, I highly recommend Clown in a Cornfield. I think it's a fairly effective, fun slasher. Even though it doesn't reinvent the wheel for the slasher genre for a good chunk of its runtime, I still think it's a pretty great experience, especially if you're going to be watching this with a bunch of friends. It does have that kind of fun, communal experience. I'd be really interested interested to see where this story would go in a sequel. I know there's multiple books, so there's probably some material there they could work on if they want to make a Clown in the Cornfield too. The author of these books seems like a pretty cool guy. I've seen him talking about the book extensively while I've been scrolling through TikTok of all apps. So I really hope that the movie does pretty well. Once you get a chance to check out Clown in the Cornfield though, make sure you share your thoughts down below. What'd you think of the film? Did you like the film? Did you not like the film? If you're somebody that's read the books as well, I would love to know your thoughts on, do you think this is a worthy adaptation? And I'm sure there's some things that they've changed that you're probably not a big fan of, or you are a fan of, so I'd love to know those down below as well. Thank you guys, as always, check out the videos. I always do appreciate it. Make sure to like on the video and also subscribe to the channel to update reviews, reactions, unboxings, and more. Until next time, I'll see you guys later.